So this is Corey.
Hi.
I love it. I think I met you in person for the first time at Paige's screening.
Yes.
You were like so sweet. Even though we met for the first time, you're like, oh my God. And we started talking and you have such a great energy. Love that about you.
Thank you.
And I guess congratulations for everything you're doing. And I didn't want to butcher it, so I actually wrote it down. In the half post video, what you said is, I've taken the word that has given me the most shame, and I've made it my identifier, and I've made it my superpower.
Yeah.
This is so powerful.
Thank you.
And was there any specific, because you talk a lot about like what motivated you to create Femme.
Yeah.
But was there any particular moment that sparked you the idea, I'm going to write this, I'm going to create this?
Yeah, I think it came from multiple different angles, right? So I would be on these gay sort of dating apps and I would see no femmes and mask only, femme being feminine and mask being masculine. And so I felt like I was constantly being beat over the head with the fact that my feminist made me undesirable and made me unworthy. So I really was internalizing that in a really deep way. So that was sort of one angle. And the other angle was, I am an actor. I had an agent who basically was like, you'll never work if you don't hide the fact that you're gay, if you're not able to hide that. And that really was an interesting turning point in the industry. I felt like no one knew what to do with me. They kept saying I was too specific, which really was code for that I was too gay, and they didn't know what to do with me. So I felt like I was experiencing it in my personal life and then as well in my professional life. And I was like, I really need to flip the script here. I really need to harness this thing that everyone says is my weakness, and I need to make it my identifier. I need to make it my superpower. And Femme was born. And I think what's interesting about that too is that I didn't love that part of myself yet. It was aspirational, and that was like, I need to write a film that celebrates feminists because I need to see it for myself. I think the most rewarding part of this process was starting the process not loving the word femme, and where I am now, loving that with every fiber of my being and knowing that it is my superpower and it is what makes me special and unique. And for all those years that I was trying to dim that, it was a dark time. And now I do feel like I am able to harness that in a meaningful way. And I think the next step for me is also empowering other people to do that as well. I think another part of this puzzle was my producer, whose name is Benno Rosenwald, and he really gave me the permission and like looked me dead in the eye and was like, your story is worth telling, and if you tell your story, I will produce it. And that was really meaningful for me, queer person to queer person, him saying that my story was worth telling. And I think part of my goal is to empower other people so that they don't have to wait for someone else to tell them that they're worthy, because that doesn't always come along, that person in the flesh. But like, I want to help people skip that step and just empower them and say like, you're worthy, tell your story, because telling my story has really changed my life.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One, was the process involved with lots of pain? Because you have to face all the things that you've been suppressing, right?
Sure.
And putting that in the paper, that's one layer. And it's sharing that with another or more people. That's such a vulnerable, courageous thing to do.
Thanks. I think what's interesting is like, I realized once I led with that was actually the thing that the majority of the people that loved me because of that anyway.
It was so good.
You know, that moment where I was like, oh, I've been hiding this thing because I thought that no one liked, that everyone hated that part about me. And there was people that hated that part about me, but it's usually strangers and people that didn't know me. But what was interesting is once I was able to own that part of myself, I realized that all the people that I had close to me loved me because of that anyway. And it was like such a light bulb moment. I was like, oh my God, everyone loves me because of this. And the people that don't love me because of this, I don't want in my life anyway.
I was rewatching the video yesterday, because it made such a huge impact on me, and not only myself. A couple of my friends told me, like, this is exactly what I want this world to know, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have so much shame around it, and it didn't click me the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
It didn't click to me till yesterday. What I have shame around, that was me being small, because I'm 4'10" and third quarter. And also, I'm really loud. And hearing that as a child, and at that point, me being Asian was not in the equation, because I was still in Japan. But being small and loud, hence you're really annoying. Being told that as a child, it just clicked to me in a way that it never did. What if I really owned that as an identifier and made that as my superpower? What would that change for my own narrative?
Yeah.
So I was really thinking about that yesterday. I wanted to thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting. Do you think that people said that you were too loud because they, like, didn't want you to take up space?
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think so much of it is about, like, having a voice and being loud with your voice, and how empowering that is. And that threatens a lot of people, I think, as well. Because as a marginalized group, as far as, like, being queer or being a woman, like, maybe they didn't feel that you deserved to be loud and take up space. You know, and how fucked up that is, obviously. But how embracing your loudness is really embracing who you are, and embracing the fact that you are deserving of taking up space, and you are deserving of having a voice.
Absolutely. It's so powerful that people get to say this out loud and say, like, this is who I am. And I'm so glad you said people who are around me, people who love me because of that.
Yeah.
And also, it's another powerful thing to say, if they don't like me for that, I don't need them in my life anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the person who sort of, like, introduced me to that concept was Laverne Cox. And so right when I graduated from NYU, I did a short film, and Laverne Cox was in it with me, a then unknown Laverne Cox, who's before Orange is the New Black. And I remember we had these night shoots together, and the first time I saw her, I was like, oh my God, you are stunningly beautiful. And she goes, every single day someone stops me on the street and tells me that I look like Beyonce. And I was like, yes, yes. But I followed, you know, her rise to fame, and it was so inspiring to see her living her truth. And then she had an interview where she talked about her hands, and she talked about the fact that she had large hands, and how that was, like, a signifier of her being trans, I guess. And so she talked about how she, like, always hated her hands so much because they were, like, an indicator of her being trans. And when she decided to flip the script of saying, like, I don't love myself in spite of my hands, I love myself because of my hands, because they are an indicator of my transness, and I love my transness. And when she talked about that switch in mindset on camera, like, that was a huge inspiration to me, of saying, like, what if I loved myself because of my feminist and not in spite of my feminist?
I love that. And you just mentioned because you said out loud on camera.
Yeah.
I think that's another layer, and you're so courageous and awesome for doing this, because there are so many levels. People might be able to embrace that fact, but to do that in a bigger scale, to do that in a, you know, larger scale, and sharing that with a bigger audience.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think social media is really interesting because it allows everyone to have a voice, and everyone has a platform, whether it's big or small. Like, you can have a platform in which to share your ideas and your story and your point of view. And I think what I've been very conscious of trying to do is broadcasting my success on social media, because I know that I have a lot of queer kids who are following me because of Femme, and I want to show them that success is possible as an openly queer, visibly queer person. And I remember same sort of thing. Like, I remember seeing Jacob Tabaya, who's fantastic, and they were like on Instagram about how they had a meeting at Paramount Studios about their project. And I was like, wow, if this like visibly queer person can do that, like I can too. So it is kind of interesting. Like for me, I do feel like I am a private person sometimes, but I am trying to be very diligent about broadcasting when I do have success, because I know that people are watching. And like, I think Forbes 30 under 30 was a huge like moment for me, and like I wanted to make sure that I was blasting it out into the world, because I knew that there was a queer kid in the middle of nowhere who saw me on the Forbes 30 under 30 and was like, not only can I be openly queer, but I can be successful, and I can be successful from a mainstream point of view. Like, nothing equates success. Forbes is synonymous with success, you know, and like for someone to say like, not only is this viable, but you can make money and you can be successful and you can be visible. Like, that was such an important moment for me, because I knew that it had scope, you know? And same thing with the Huffington Post piece. Like, that provided a platform that I'd never had before. There's over 2 million views on that video. Like, I just think like always challenging myself to be visible is part of my journey.
And it all happened because you use that as a superpower. So like, yes, this is who I am. I love myself. And this is just so good. How did you feel when they told you like, oh, you're gonna be on 30 under 30? Did you freak out?
I started screaming.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I think like, obviously it was such a major moment for me, but I felt like it was more for like my family in a lot of ways, because like I said, like Forbes is so synonymous with success, and like my family has been so supportive of me, but like for them to see that, I remember calling my dad and he was like, I don't believe it. He was like, I need to go online. I got out that morning. And so I called him and it was already live on Forbes, and he like looked up and he was like, oh my God.
Yes, that is such an epic moment.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thanks.
And not only the people around you, you get to inspire people all around the world. And I think that's such a gift that you get to give everyone.
Well, you know what's interesting too? It's like, I kind of always thought that my story was very specific, because I've kind of like been told that my story is specific by so many people. And I think what's really wild is getting messages from people all around the world, getting messages from kids in, you know, Australia and India and Morocco and England, all over, who really identified with the story of Femme. And it's not something that I could have predicted, because I did think that it was so like niche and so specific, and I was like, you know, I didn't know if it would relate to people around the world. And I think the coolest thing is hearing those stories from people around the world, and how the challenge of loving yourself as a queer person is international and compounded in other areas of the world.
How did this really impacting on a community aspect?
One of the coolest parts of Femme was being able to travel with Femme and go to the film festivals and meet people and meet how it affects different people. And I do think that we did get a good amount of media coverage, and that does... Good amount of... Well, it encourages dialogue.
Yeah,
and just having that out there encourages people to talk about it. And like, you know, I think that the media component actually surpassed the viewership of the actual film, which is fine. For me, it's just like getting people to talk about these issues. And I have seen the media more willing to talk about these issues in a meaningful way and start dialogue, because I'm obviously not the only person that's talking about this, and you know, other people are coming at it from different angles. And I do think within the community there is a willingness to talk about this in a meaningful way.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us all about sharing the story, sharing the message, and we create that. And being able for other people, the viewer, the audience, to actually start the conversation, start the dialogue. That's a new level. So I'm so glad you just mentioned this is happening. People are talking about it.
Yeah.
Even the shifting the media and said, oh, we're going to have to catch up and talk about it.
Yeah.
I think that's such a powerful way to create the change in the world.
Well, also in like acknowledging the specificity of my story, as far as like, I do come from a place of privilege, and I do have white privilege and cis privilege and all these things, and I understand that the dialogue surrounding Femme is a lot different for many different people. And what I want to do is tell my story and hope that that sparks a discussion from many different people, from many different communities. We have a hashtag called Free Your Femme, and really the reason that I wanted to start that hashtag is to empower people to have a dialogue about that on social media. So I feel like that was a major component of the plan of Femme. It's like someone empowered me to tell my story. I told my story through Femme the film, and now I want to empower other people to not only tell their story but also talk about this.
I love that. You mentioned like there are a lot of things that are still up in the air, but with this series coming out, you get to tell different stories.
Yeah. Very excited about this series. Rachel Brosnahan,
I love her.
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She executive produced the short, and she signed on to executive produce the series. So we're so excited to have her. And we're sort of in the process of pitching that and sort of getting the team together and making that a reality. But to your point, Femme, the film, was very specific as far as it was my story, and I do want to open that up and allow space for other people to come in and tell their story and showcase different facets of the LGBTQ community, because it is so wide and it is so varying, and I understand that my perspective is a very limited one, and I want to bring in other people who can also speak to their experiences. I think it's just not about me. I always knew that I wanted to be an actor, but I never understood why I wanted to be an actor until I birthed Femme. And I was like, oh, that's why I was given the gift of acting, to tell this story that needed to be told at this moment. And like, I do feel very much like a conduit of the universe. And like, I do feel like it is so much bigger than me, which is really, like comforting. I think we can get so insular sometimes, and especially like telling my own story, like there is a lot of like, I guess I just try to remember that it's just bigger than me. It's not me. It's not about me.
I had to always remember that it is not about me, but also because it is my story.
Yeah.
It is my
like
work.
it is about you, but it's also not.
Yeah,
and finding that balance.
How do you find the balance?
I think I'm still working through it. I think like journaling helps me find my balance. And actually journaling led me to Femme as well. It's like I just kept journaling about gender roles and gender performance, and then like finally I think what's meaningful about journaling is like you see when things start to come up time and time again. And I'm the type of person where I was like, I can't write this anymore. Like, I have to do it. And I'm actually at that exact point with this next project that I have that's been like floating around in my head for, I think like maybe a year and a half now. And it's like, just do it, Corey. Just do it.
Even when you let it go, it's going to come back to you anyway. So just do it. So that's in the air. I'd love to hear more about that next time we chat.
Yeah.
But I get so excited and I get so off track.
I like going down little tangents.
Oh my god, it's so good. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Great, I remembered. Yes. So good. So that's why I love about this film, right? And even towards the end, I think I can remember the verbatim and I feel so bad, but it really is about celebrating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when you focus on what's not working or what you're angry about, it's like, it's good to share the story, but you want other people, or at least I want other people to join my party.
Yeah.
You know, like even if you're talking about the same thing, you're talking about the perspective of lack of, like, we don't have this right, we don't have this right, and if you're talking about it in a clear way, it's like if you're not going to do anything about it, you're still a part of the problem.
Sure.
Right? But if you are celebrating it, if you're falling in love with yourself so much, and that's what I really love about them, it is about owning it. It is about celebrating it. So the celebration, how do you celebrate yourself?
Ooh, I love this question. I celebrate myself by making time for myself. I celebrate myself by journaling. I celebrate myself by lots of expensive skincare products.
Yes! What's your favorite?
Drunk Elephant. I love their stuff. But I love it. I think I love it because it's time spent for you and for no one else. And like, I love the routine and the luxuriousness of just being able to touch your face and massage your face and put things on that make you feel good. I love face masks. Like, I think just like being really, I guess, like precious of your you time. Like, I also have a day job, so like I'm nonstop Monday through Friday. So the weekends for me are really my opportunity to do things that bring me joy and also just some quiet time, I think. And so like I'm very protective of my schedule on the weekends. I don't do anything on the weekends unless like I really want to, because I know that that's my time to recharge. So sometimes it means saying like I'm just not available during that time, because I know that if I take on things during the weekend and I don't recharge, then that's going to mess up the rest of my week, and I'm not going to be able to go about things in a way that's like refreshed and present, because I'm going to be depleted. And so I think part of me growing up is like being very selfish about my schedule and saying like, no, this is just me time. And like, I actually don't have anything planned, but I can't do that because I need to just be in my bliss for this day.
Has it always been like that?
I think it took a long time. I think as artists, like it's always that combination of like, how do I support myself and how do I do my art? And so for me, I support myself with a like 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday. And I need that in order to also do my art, because I'm not necessarily making a lot of money off of Femme yet. So I need that source of income in order to like fund Femme. And also I realized that I do like to be busy. And so like it's nice for me to have a place where I know I'm going to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. But I think it took a long time to find that balance, especially in New York. But I've realized that's what makes me happy, and that's what allows my creative stuff to happen, is also having this like very grounded part of my life that's very consistent, because the artistry can be so up in the air and can be so unpredictable that I really need that sort of rooted groundedness from over here.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's the contrast.
Yeah. But I think it took a long time to like find that balance. And like anyone who's going through this, I'd say just like give yourself time. Like you'll find what you need. Just kind of always taking that time to look inward and say like, what do I need right now? And being okay with being selfish about anything that doesn't jive with what you need.
Amazing. Do you have anything that you want to specifically share with artist community?
The artist community?
Yeah.
Surrounding what?
Because you created your own thing. And we are in the place where we go on audition, we get booked, we get paid. What's next? We're in that world.
Make your own work, make your own work, make your own work, make your own work. Make your own work.
I love it.
Honestly, like, I got to a point where I just couldn't wait anymore. And I knew I was a fucking star. And
hell yes that you are.
The world hadn't caught up yet. And I said, well, I'm going to give you a reason to show you. You know? And I do think just waiting is not sexy.
No, absolutely not.
You know, it's not a good look on anyone. Like, And also just energetically, it's like, I do feel like for so long it was like, give me the opportunity, you know? And then like the second that I made my own work, like energetically, it's like moving back, you know? And like feeling like whatever else I get as far as like in addition to Femme is great, but I know that I have my own thing and I know that I'm worthy. And so like, it's no longer an energy of like desperation.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think since I started auditioning after Femme, like I do feel like that sense of like, you know what, I'm going to be okay regardless. Like if I don't book this, that's fine. Because I have my own thing going on. And like anything else that can complement that, great, awesome. But I think it just changed the way I enter a room.
I love it. That was so good. In combination of what you just said about like you having a 9-to-5 and like do that so that you can have a freedom to create.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
As an artist community, like the struggling artist mindset, it's such a thing.
Yeah.
And it like almost come to the point like we have to struggle, otherwise we're not making good art. That's not true.
Yeah. And I would say like obviously everyone's journey is different, but for me, finding a day job that really challenged me and challenged my brain just was so vital in my journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because also like I've worked at tech startups ever since I graduated. Building that muscle as far as that business mindset, I think made me a better writer, producer, and actor for Femme, because I am running a business.